Video sponsored by Ground News. The year is 2021, and Dolton is a village in the township of Thornton, Cook County, Illinois. It's around 20 miles south of Chicago, and home to roughly 20,000 people. 30 years ago, it's a fairly nice place, but now, not quite. A dire job market, regular shootings, corrupt officials and financial mismanagement. Public fitness centres being hired out for strip shows. The people of Dolton had had enough. Something has to change. In April, it's Dolton's mayoral election, and this year, a woman named Tiffany Henyard has entered the ring for the first time. Born and raised in the village, she'd been a trustee, a locally elected official on the village board, voting for things like budgets and contracts, for 8 years now. She also has a bachelor's degree in business administration and an entrepreneurial background, owning her own burger restaurant. And now, she's just clinched the Democratic nomination for Dolton's mayor and is running against independent Ronnie Burge. Her campaign message was clear: unity. It's time for change. We need love, transparency, and accountability, she says. Lots of knocking on doors and handing out flyers. And on April 8th, the votes come in. And she'd won. Bigly. More than 80% of the vote. Tiffany Henyard is now the first female, and at 37 years of age, youngest mayor of Dolton. We did it, y'all! We did it! The village was saved. May 8th, 2021. Tiffany Henyard is sworn in. The after party is big. It goes hard. So big, so hard, it ends up costing around $15,000. But it's fine. Tiffany says her campaign is covering all expenses. A few days later, and the administration comes together. She appoints her staff, who she's calling her dream team, and board meetings go ahead as usual. This is during COVID, so these are currently on Zoom. And things start off pretty good. There's this Stop the Violence thing in June, the first fireworks show in Dolton in over a decade in July, a walk for cancer in the autumn. Also, some door-to-door knocking for police feedback, a few food giveaways, some tree trimming, bouncy castles. Things are alright. She apparently has this big calendar of things she wants to do. Loads of events, giveaways, etc. And it's not long before she's calling herself the People's Mayor and Super Mayor. Towards the end of 2021, however, and problems begin to brew. In the village, a teenager has been left dead after a fatal police shooting, and Henyard is publicly siding with the officers involved. This is not popular, and protests spring up outside her home. 20 officers show up for security. In September, the Super Mayor hires a registered sex offender. He'd spent a quarter century in prison for crimes involving minors, and had just got out in 2018. Henyard allegedly knows about this, and decides to make him a code enforcer. Basically, he's employed specifically to go around knocking on people's doors and into their homes for inspection. For some reason, this doesn't go down well. Protesters respawn and rush Village Hall. However now, calls on Henyard to resign are beginning to bubble. In October, her new code enforcer is accused of lying during the offender registration process and rearrested. Despite all of this, he keeps the job for almost a full year. That same month, and a woman named Dorothy Brown is in the news too. She's the former Cook County Court clerk. Basically, she'd been in charge of one of the largest court systems in the country for around 20 years. Those years, not great. And she'd end up stepping down in 2020 after years of federal investigations, corruption probes, and multiple employees convicted of bribery and misconduct and arrested. Henyard describes her as her godmother and mentor, and she's now the village administrator. Naturally, back in May, the board had a few questions about this, but it was fine. She'll be transitional, Henyard tells them. She's gonna be there, max, a few months. So they agree and vote her in. And now, she's on the taxpayer payroll again, at around $100K a year. But fast forward to October, and she's still there. It's coming up to 6 months now, and not so much as an online job posting for the role. Henyard's trustees not happy. In November, Henyard decides to make some changes. With recent events, a variety of concerns are coming through during board meetings, and since the start of COVID, this has been done through the live chat function of YouTube. But now, chat's getting muted. Got a complaint? Well, here's an email address. Send it there, and we'll definitely read it out during the stream. Trustees' microphones are also being muted, and they're not a big fan of this. They rage quit, and the meeting is adjourned. Some rough waters here and there, but overall, Henyard ends her first year confident. The village had hired 8 police personnel, 3 firefighters, and had just begun the process of reopening a damaged firehouse, she says. She's also delivered a balanced budget that was implemented on time, something that was rare for the village. She'd had some hurdles, but overall, she's doing great, she says. Before that, the modern media landscape is horrific.
Live from London, this is BBC.
Misinformation, bias, lies, wildly different headlines coming from all directions. Absolute bedlam. But with Ground News, things are different. Ground News is a small, independent team that aggregates tens of thousands of articles a day, highlighting their ownership, factuality, and political bias. Glimpse behind the curtain, and see what's really going on, and which facts are reported or left out, depending on the source. Take for example, this article. Trump taps Mike Waltz as US ambassador, names Rubio as national security advisor. Give it a click, and Ground News will serve up summaries of the story filtered from left to right-wing coverage. We can also browse the headlines, where on the left, The New Republic is saying, Signalgate idiot Mike Waltz fails up into new job in Trump cabinet, showing it in a bad light. While on the right, the Western Journal labels it, a painful defeat to Dems, making it sound good. Ground News is also the only app with the blind spot feature, showcasing stories reported on one side of the aisle and ignored on the other. This feature is good. I check it to make sure I'm not missing out on important news due to selective reporting. Ground News is the best way for you to zoom out and get a clear picture of what's going on, cut through the noise and spin of mainstream media, and see things for what they are. And for a limited time, you can scan the QR code here, or punch in ground.news/bigboss and get the same Vantage plan I used for 40% off. In January, the village administrator role is finally filled. Dorothy Brown is out, and a man named Keith Freeman steps in, joining the Dream Team, which is now quickly becoming a nightmare. There's a massive rift growing between Henyard and the trustees, and they're currently outright refusing to work with each other. People in the village are also starting to notice something. Her name and face, they're popping up quite a bit.
What the fuck?
Almost every village scheme, event, poster, pretty much every social media post, and there she is. Even on the village hall itself. In fact, if you go to Dolton on Google Maps, 2 pictures come up. This is one of them. She's also on Instagram, and she's posting a fair amount there too. Vlogs, selfies, dancing, parties, and a lot of singing. Some of the posts are interesting, and some bold statements are made.
Martin Luther King had the dream, but guess what? I am the dream.
She's also mowing a few lawns and ploughing some snow, and she wants you to know about it.
I help everyone. It doesn't matter what you do or say about me.
Also, a lot of dressing up and shooting music videos. The village is clearly in good hands. In March, the supervisor of Thornton Township, the head of the governing township of Dolton, is no longer alive, and his position is now up for grabs. Now, Thornton is the largest township in Illinois.
That's quite big.
It has around 160,000 residents and oversees 17 towns and villages, one of which our little village of Dolton. So this is no small position. In the running for new supervisor, 9 potential picks. And Tiffany, is last on the ballot, so things aren't looking too great for her. But regardless, the township trustees gather and voting kicks off. And she'd won again. For the second time, she's the youngest person and first woman to fill the role. She'd now be controlling both village and township level budgets. Naturally, some people raise some concerns: conflict of interest, consolidation of power, financial mismanagement, etc. But these concerns are quickly brushed off. Thornton was saved. Hopefully she can bring the township to where it needs to go. It needs to go to another place, a Thornton trustee says. And it would. April 10th, and Tiffany is sworn in as supervisor. She now has her 50k Dolton salary, with a nice new 220k slapped on top. That's a combined salary of almost 300k, more than the state's governor. She wastes no time getting settled in, and in Thornton Township Hall, heads roll. The township's executive assistant is immediately fired, alongside a few others, and that new township manager looks familiar. Back in Dolton, and more issues are brewing. See, in the US, there's a thing called the Freedom of Information Act, or FOIA. It's a law that gives the public the right to access government records, internal emails and texts, financial documents like invoices and budgets, stuff like that. And turns out, there's a ton of these requests coming in. People are asking for a slew of documents: village finances, licenses, permits, contracts, personnel details, and so on. So Henyard tells her village administrator, just don't respond to any of them. Genius. However, this is illegal.
You violated the law.
So in April, the village clerk files a lawsuit against her. Trustees have also just voted to sue her. There's a series of complaints here, but conflict of interest, hiring and firing without board approval, and using Dolton's checkbook like an open credit card, chief among them. She's also apparently just dishing out village checks to people, with only her signature and the clerk's signature stamp. However, this is without the clerk's knowledge or board approval. Also, the clerk's access to village bank account information, well, that's just been revoked. Trustees of the village can no longer actually see what's going on with finances. But it's fine. Tiffany takes it upon herself to host Big Bingo, a traditional bingo night for village seniors. It had now been quite a few months of turbulence, and despite some phenomenal work, people in the village aren't too impressed. Add on top the recent allegations of financial mismanagement and conflicts of interest, and things are reaching boiling point. Residents, trustees, the village clerk, everyone is just appalled. How could this be happening? She'd been so professional before.
There's nothing in those applications, and I told you,
And just less than a year in, the Dolton Village Board decides Henyard, probably not the right person for the job, so they go rogue, and scramble to pass through a public vote to recall her. One issue: Dolton doesn't actually have a recall process, so they decide to assemble one themselves, and in June, 2 questions are added to Dolton's ballot. The first, to establish a recall mechanism, and the second, to recall Tiffany Henyard.
Y'all make sure y'all go and vote no to the recall, because my work speaks for itself.
And both go through with 56% of the vote. It was over. Voters had nipped things in the bud and taken her out. Henyard was gone. Hold on. Before she steps down, a Cook County judge chimes in. That vote had procedural issues. Also, the questions are way too confusing. So he declares the vote invalid. She's staying in. So for Tiffany, celebrations.
And I just want people to understand, I'm happy. Leave me alone, because I am.
And signs begin to appear around town. I'm your forever mayor.
After she won the recall, she put a sign around town saying, I'm your forever mayor, which pissed a lot of people off.
Her first board meeting back also looks like this.
How y'all doing? Ain't no stopping us now. We on the move. Thank y'all for coming out. I appreciate this. Okay, I see you. You was feeling that, huh? I feel you.
By summer 2022, in-person board meetings are back in action.
This is where I, the mayor, address the community about concerns, hearsay.
Now, historically, Dolton Village Board meetings have a thing called Citizens' Address. This is where members of the public get a chance to speak to the mayor and trustees directly, asking questions about what they'd just discussed and voted for, and voicing concerns, to which the mayor and trustees would respond. However, Tiffany has a different idea, and Citizens' Address becomes public comment. People can still make statements and ask questions. However now, no one has to actually answer, removing the point entirely.
You think they're converting the police and military over to gangbangers and crooks? Just because it's fun and because they want to give you some power? Humanity's going to come together. We know we're under attack! Yeah!
In September, Henyard decides to do some good, so she sets up the Tiffany Cares Foundation, a non-profit charity supporting people with cancer. In October, she even organises a march to Springfield, a 10-day bike ride to the state capital to try and pass a bill that would give tax breaks to cancer patients.
I have created a bill to give everybody $5,000 if you are suffering from cancer.
Pretty nice. The year is now 2023. Shootings are still ongoing, crime is rising, and taxes and water bills are going up. And Tiffany Henyard is currently constructing a $115,000 ice rink in the middle of the village. The board would never approve of this, so Henyard slid an under-the-table payment to a contractor, and they got to work. However, the board eventually finds out and halts the payments. So Henyard shifts some cash to a separate contractor, and they finish the job.
It will be built by tomorrow. And remember, ain't no stopping us now. We on the move.
And on Saturday the 25th of February, it's the grand opening.
3, 2, 1.
And the Justice Rink is open to all. Tiffany is quite excited.
It's your mayor, Tiffany A. Henyard, the people's mayor. We here in the village of Dolton and we about to get our skate on. Remember, when all 5 of them trustees said no, look what God did. This is us on ice right here. See it?
However, after that, rinks closed. That is one of the only times the public will be allowed in to actually ice skate. Turns out, maintaining an ice rink, quite expensive.
Wait a minute. What's this? This ain't enough. Make it enough.
They also have no staff to operate it. They couldn't even afford that if they wanted it. So from now on, it's essentially Henyard's own personal ice rink. Only open on events of hers.
It was only open when she was having an event there and she invited the residents to come there to her event.
Got a feeling. Okay, all right.
A second ice rink is also apparently in the works. Okay, trustees, seriously not impressed. They can't see the exact financials, but they know things in the village aren't great. So in an attempt to curb spending, they block all current and future payments to vendors. Tiffany hears about this, and she's not pleased. So in March, she rocks up to a village board meeting dressed as a crack cocaine dealer from a movie.
Here she is starting a Dolton Village board meeting, dressed like the Wesley Snipes character in the movie New Jack City.
She also has a DJ, who's blasting the song Bitch Better Have My Money.
Pay me what you owe me. Thank you, DJ.
I just had a question.
And I'm looking for that Rihanna.
I'm good with you.
She later denies doing this.
Your critics say you came dressed up as Nino Brown.
I did not come as Nino Brown. I did a scene from Martin. I did come as a scene from Martin. I even made fun about it and did a skit and posted it on my TikTok just to show people my sense of humor side.
In May, Tiffany and her staff pack their bags. It's time for business. And they take a plane to Vegas for an economic development trip. The same month, a Thornton Township employee is found with a bag of weed and an unregistered gun hidden under a government car seat.
They let y'all have weed in these cars? I know they don't. You know, y'all got a magazine in the vehicle. They let y'all do that? What?
He's arrested.
Oh,
The police in Dolton, interesting. Ever since those protests outside her house a couple of years ago, Henyard had kept a permanent security detail of at least 3 officers around her at all times. Her own personal motorcade, driving her around everywhere, even while she's running errands. And apparently, she's running the town like a mob boss with them.
Grazie.
In July, a former trustee and vocal critic of Henyard wakes up to find a dozen bullet holes in her tenants' cars, parked outside her house. Before that, Henyard had turned up with a caravan of police and city workers, and before that, a snowplow.
I'm like, oh, you call me? Oh, no. We have Valerie Stars, look. Yep. And I'm helping her. I help everyone. It doesn't matter what you do or say about me. Everyone needs help. Just remember that. Watch how you treat people because you never know when you need the help.
Safe to say, she has suspicions about who did it. So she goes to the police to report the shooting. But they're not interested. They won't even give her a police report to file it. Also, own a bar in town and just refused a political donation to Henyard? Expect a knock on the door. Because police are allegedly also going around town, raiding bars and stripping their licenses. This happens to both Pablo's and Rinky's bar and cafe, with around 10 police cars rocking up and pounding down the doors. Customers are apparently pushed out the way and threatened with arrest, and licenses are revoked for both.
All the employees, they're gonna lose their job.
It's ridiculous. We all have mouths to feed, we all have kids. They're not giving us no explanation.
Lacey's Place, another chain of bars, fails their license renewal due to a tax audit. And a local trucking company was raided and shut down back in January. They'd just turned down a $3,500 donation to Henyard. A ton of places are also having issues getting licenses in the first place. The suspected plan for this was simple: endlessly delay signing off on licenses needed by businesses to open up shop, despite the village board approving it, cutting off revenue, while they still have to pay rent, tax, and general overhead.
I'll just subtract it from today's profit. And there's no money in here!
Eventually, facing bankruptcy, owners have to sell up at fire sale prices. The entire business can now be scooped up on the cheap. And once it's in our hands, look at that. I think the license is ready to go. The business is instantly profitable, and the location is flipped for a nice chunk of change. This almost happens to St. Patrick's, a newly built 3-story restaurant in the village. The liquor license had been approved by trustees, but Henyard says no, refusing to sign off on it for over 6 months. However, they sue, and she's eventually forced to sign by a county judge. There's also a local woman who'd bought a whole strip mall to turn into a non-profit food bank for half the county. However, Henyard says no again, and her permits and licenses are delayed for months on end, while she still has to pay the property tax, rent, overhead, and more.
If this isn't able to be funded, whose pocket does it come out of right now?
Mine?
In September, reports begin to dribble out, and turns out that police detail of hers, not cheap. It's actually costing the village hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. Her officers are paid quite handsomely, and they're putting in some substantial overtime. One officer is paid for 303 hours of work in a 2-week period. That's 21 hours a day, every day. This results in a single overtime paycheck of around $13,000. The overtime checks alone are kicking officers up a tax bracket here.
Mayor, mind if I ask you a couple questions about your security detail?
Absolutely not.
I'm asking her.
Yeah, she says no.
You need security to protect you from questions from reporters?
That motorcade, not cheap either. The village paid $150,000 for one Chevy Tahoe.
This is brilliant, but I like this.
Around 40% of that is interest.
That's like when you're 19 years old and you go get a car and the interest rate 27%. That makes absolutely no sense. You're
Please
not making
facts.
great finance, excuse me?
Please state facts.
Cash price of a 2023 Chevy Tahoe, $93,216.71. Total lease price, $149,146.20. Tell me if it's not facts, because your signature is all on it.
I don't see that.
Due to all of this, the police department itself, chronically understaffed, with only a few officers on shift at any one time. This is in a village with regular shootings and rising crime rates. Naturally, the village finances are currently caving in, and the deficit is absolutely ballooning. It's fine. We'll just get the police to linger around private car parks, snap some pictures of cars that pull up to the pavement, and then mail them a $500 ticket a couple of weeks later. This is not popular. People look around town. Something seems different. It's not just Dolton. Now, her name and face are beginning to appear all over the place. You can't turn your head in the village or the township without seeing it. A full frontal assault on the senses. She's everywhere. On the township's Instagram, an absolute blitzkrieg. It's peppered head to toe with pictures of her. Government vehicles, buildings, even rugs in the township. Tiffany A. Henyard. There's also Tiffany Henyard calendars.
Featuring all the important dates to remember, including her birthday.
And what's that in the distance? Is that? My God. There are 122 of these, costing the township around $22,000. The board was never consulted. And hold on, does that say Thornton? And new ones have to be made and hoisted up again, also on the taxpayer's dime. It's not just billboards. Purple banners are springing up all over Dolton too. This also costs around $20,000 and was never approved. The company installing them says they've never been paid.
No, we have not received any payment for the banners or the brackets. The total is $19,899.60 with the freight.
But the vendor says they have yet to be paid for them and other items totaling more than $85,000.
Okay, things are getting a bit concerning. But hey, at least Big Bingo is still going strong. In May 2023, some reports come out about Tiffany's cancer charity, and turns out, not so good. When she'd first registered it in 2022, she'd apparently hidden a little payment deep in the township budget, which board members signed off on. And on the same day the charity is created, it receives a $10,000 payment from Dolton.
Why did you and the board vote to give your foundation $10,000?
I'm the face of the foundation. My name is nowhere, sir. I'm the face.
You're the face.
Also, that march to Springfield, let's have another look. Back in October 2022, Tiffany had organised a 196-mile, 10-day bike ride from Dolton to the capital of Illinois, where she said she'd march straight into the halls of the state legislature and get a bill passed that would give tax breaks to cancer patients. And at 10 AM on October 4th, 2022, they set off. And Henyard and a few Thornton staffers kick off the march by getting on e-bikes.
Y'all see my bike?
Our town ship
Superman.
supervisor.
Also included on the march, a flatbed trailer with a photographer flying a drone, a DJ, a caravan, and multiple village and township vehicles. And of course, a ton of pit stops on the way.
55 burgers, 55 fries, 55 tacos, 55 pies, 55 cokes, 100 tater tots, 100 pizzas, 100 tenders, 100 meatballs, 100 coffees, 55 wings, 55 shakes, 55 pancakes, 55 pasta, 55 peppers, and 155 taters.
Okay, that'll be $680.
Okay.
All courtesy of Thornton and Dolton supplied credit cards. Any bills or expenditures? Stick it on. And they wine and dine in a plethora of restaurants and hotel stays en route. And the march to Springfield ends up costing taxpayers around $12,000.
Walking through Dolton. Hi, we're Brightwood now. We are in Godly now. We in Bloomington, baby.
I can pretty much map out their entire Springfield trip on the township credit cards.
This is excluding a separate payment for 1,000 white Tiffany Henyard t-shirts for the trip. That comes in at around $17,000. When they actually get to Springfield, the state legislature isn't even in session, and the cancer bill is never filed. It never existed in the first place. The charity also never filed a financial statement, so the state attorney general shuts it down. Tiffany claims she was never involved.
You are being called crazy, deranged, saying that you are stealing funds. You have a charity that from the Attorney General's office, as I understand they sent a cease and desist letter to your foundation.
I don't know nothing about that. I'm not crazy. I'm not
You have
deranged.
Tiffany Henyard Cares, your foundation.
I want to set the record straight. I don't have a foundation.
However, Its Facebook page shows it's literally just a rebrand from her burger restaurant page. June 2023. More reports. Apparently Dolton owes more than $427,000 for some street paving done in 2002. And that tree trimming, well, that's gonna cost $500,000. This is for a single month of it in 2023.
You're supposed to have a list of approved contractors that have been vetted. They have to check up on these folks to make sure they're good. There's no such thing there. She's just handing out these contracts willy-nilly.
Not one of the 7 companies involved were on the village's approved contractor list. They didn't even have a contract with the village. Trustees are still refusing to clear Tiffany's bills, and lawsuits from vendors are now flooding in. A bank is also threatening to repossess more than a dozen village vehicles, including police cars, because lease payments are being missed. People in Dolton are now incredibly concerned, so trustees formally request village bank statements. They're denied. December, and during a board meeting, trustees in the township are handed a 7-page ordinance to sign at the last minute. There's no time to read it, but they sign anyway. And turns out, what they'd just signed means if Tiffany gets re-elected as supervisor, the position's pay stays at $224,000. Anyone else gets voted in, and that goes down to just $25,000, a 90% pay cut. Nice. So by the end of 2023, various things had come to light, and it's slowly beginning to look like Tiffany isn't quite as legit as previously thought, and more things are surfacing. People online managed to dig up a decade-old mugshot from the Chicago Police Department. Is that the people's mayor breaking into someone's car? This was in 2016, while she was a sitting trustee. She'd also made the news in 2019 for effectively being a slumlord.
I want to talk to you about that house on Dearborn. Can we do that?
My attorney's right here, so if you got any questions, I have legal counsel. Talk to my attorney.
So you want me to talk to your attorney and not you? You can't tell me how that house failed an inspection in October when it just passed it beforehand?
If you have any questions, talk to my attorney.
Gave out petrol to residents during her 2021 campaign.
It is probably illegal.
Her bachelor's degree, probably fake. And her entrepreneurial burger restaurant, not looking great either. Over at Good Burger, taken from the movie Good Burger, there are issues.
Welcome to Good Burger, home of the Good Burger. Can I take your order?
Your own ingredients?
We bake burgers.
What's in there? I can see the blood. And you made this?
My very own turkey burger.
That is hideous. At least it's seasoned.
Now, you know that's not fair, sneaking up on a man when he's eating a Tiffany juicy burger. Seeing that you're here, let me just fill you in. When a man gets to hold a burger like this in his hand, this is like heaven.
It's operating at the South Suburban College, and turns out they have more than $1,500 in unpaid bills from her. The college has filed numerous complaints. Unsanitary conditions, failure to clean equipment, inadequate staff, inadequate background checks on staff, 33 months of late rent, and failure to pay commissions for 4 years, and then attempting to pay it off with a bounced check. She'd also tried to pitch Good Burger on Shark Tank.
Welcome to Good Burger, home of the Good Burger. Can I take your order? So there you have it, Sharks. A fun, friendly atmosphere where I would like you guys to come and check it out. I am urging the Sharks to invest in Good Burger because I would like to have a mobile food truck. That's right, you heard it, mobile. I have a brick and mortar location and I would like to be on the scene and go to different locations and be mobile. I am seeking $100,000 for 10% equity in my business. Here we have an all beef hand-packed patty. I just put it in and I inject. Look at that go. 1,000,001 reasons of why you Sharks should invest here at Good Burger.
But no luck. Good Burger is eventually involuntarily dissolved by the Secretary of State. (2024), and Dolton is now on the map. Nationwide news almost every other week. People's gardens and basements are also flooding, a plague of potholes on the roads, traffic lights not working, and then a ton of police vehicles about to be repossessed. That ice rink is also holding up well.
This is bad.
But it's alright. Henyard is hard at work, planning ice cream socials for seniors and dancing. In mid-January, she flies to DC for the annual Mayor's Conference, where she gets a tour of the White House and meets Joe Biden. She ends up sending the bill for this to the wrong taxpayers. Okay, at this point, village and township staff are becoming increasingly frustrated and getting more and more vocal with their criticism, so Tiffany clamps down. And when staff in the township get to the office, they notice something. None of their key fobs work. Had Henyard changed the locks? They're now unable to get into the building and do their job. Also, the residents' sensitive tax documents are just scattered all over the building. In February, there's a township board meeting. Residents rock up as usual to sit, watch, and ask questions. However, this time, when they get to the stairs leading up to the boardroom, their path is blocked. They're apparently told the meeting is actually taking place in the basement, so they head down there, and when they get there, nothing. Just a TV in the middle of the room, live streaming the meeting taking place upstairs. However, audio issues on the TV mean no one can actually hear anything. And within 4 minutes, the meeting upstairs is over, and Henyard is gone. Meanwhile, in Dolton Village Hall, lockdown 2. This time, it's not just a few employees. Almost everyone is locked out of the entire building. Instead of walking in and speaking with a help desk, residents are now forced to handle bills or licenses through a security guard stationed behind a window in a small, cramped vestibule. Even trustees, they're locked out too. The locks have been changed, and their mailboxes are now outside of the building. In response, they hold a board meeting in a park. April 1st, a board meeting is set to take place in the village, and for such a special occasion, residents are actually allowed in. However, this time, things are different. Around 100 people show up, and only 42 are allowed inside. This is after getting wanded down and walking through metal detectors. This means dozens are locked outside, and they're not too pleased. Hordes of people are now banging on doors and windows, giving the session an atmosphere more akin to a round of COD zombies than a run-of-the-mill village board meeting. It's around the same time that FBI agents begin spawning in Dolton and asking questions. Subpoenas are dished out like hotcakes. They hit Good Burger, Henyard's property management company, her political fund, and the Tiffany Cares Foundation. Township finances, business dealings, personnel files, tax documents, credit card expenditures, and vehicle use are also requested. They also subpoena her boyfriend. Henyard comes out swinging. This is a smear campaign, she says. She's under attack by a corrupt board of trustees, while she's working tirelessly for the people, paving streets, building parks, and constructing ice rinks. She creates the YouTube channel Tiff Speaks the Truth to post receipts. Her defense is strong.
Basically fighting against the devil, the evil spirits. I'm the good spirit, they the evil spirit.
Also, amid the village's intense financial concerns, she announces a $1 million giveaway on Facebook. Remember that economic development trip back in 2023? Well, in April, we get some news. Turns out, one of the trustees on the trip had allegedly been sexually assaulted by another. She'd told Tiffany about this at the time, and Tiffany's alleged response? Lay her off and cover it up. And now, Tiffany has dished another lawsuit. An activist from Chicago is airdropped into Dolton, and during a village board meeting, he confronts the trustee in question. Things get heated. Also, that trip? First-class plane tickets for everyone, and a lot of splashing. Car rentals, casinos, Ubers, bubblegum shrimp. Altogether, over $34,000 spent, courtesy of the village of Dolton. No business ever came of this economic development trip, and Tiffany denies going.
You didn't go to Las Vegas? What is that?
No comment.
You don't know if you were in Las Vegas?
In April, a resolution is voted through, requiring Henyard to actually submit village financial records. She vetoes it.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
She's also now using a gold microphone. Also, turns out her village administrator Keith Freeman has been a very naughty boy, and in March, he's indicted for bankruptcy fraud. apparently hiding $100,000 of income through a pass-through company and swiping an unauthorized $90K from a previous job. So he has to go. This is a chance to change, to get someone in that's actually good, a new slate and clean record. She replaces him with Michael A. Smith, a man with 8 criminal charges, including domestic battery, impersonating a police officer to steal petrol, and the harassment of a school student. Then on Good Friday, her chief of staff clocks in for a shift of Big Bingo. However, mid-shift, she feels funny and checks her blood pressure, slightly elevated. So she goes to the hospital and turns out she's actually having a heart attack. Naturally, she doesn't return to Big Bingo. A couple of days later, and there's a meeting at the township. Here, Tiffany allegedly tells her that's not an excuse to call off work, and next time take your blood pressure meds. Okay, we tried a recall, no luck. We tried to curb her spending, nope. The FBI are here, but their investigation could take years, and right now, we can't even see the village's finances. So the Dolton Village Board decides on a new approach. Let's get a special investigator to come in and basically work out what the fuck is going on here.
This is exactly what I've been waiting for.
And their choice? A woman named Laurie Lightfoot. Trustees vote, and the special investigation goes ahead. But during the next meeting, Henyard just vetoes it.
You know how much I sacrificed?
In June, it's the next meeting, and trustees override Henyard's veto, and the special investigation goes ahead again. Lightfoot takes to the mic to make a little speech, but midway through, mic's muted. The meeting degenerates, and police have to break up the room before it becomes an all-out brawl. Okay, about Laurie Lightfoot. Until recently, she was the mayor of Chicago, and during that time, she's not too popular. During the first lockdown, Lightfoot had come down hard, ordering all non-essential workers to stay at home for months on end. A few weeks in, and she's spotted next to her barber with a fresh trim.
I like your cut, G.
I take my personal hygiene very seriously, she says. This doesn't go down well.
Brother, this guy stinks!
She's also seen driving around the streets of Chicago, literally screaming at people to go home. Then there's the general mismanagement of the city, a surge in theft and robberies, and she's also trying to shut down public FOIA requests. Despite campaigning on openness and transparency, this results in over 109 lawsuits. She's also singing, dancing, and making TikToks. This is while Chicago turns into a harsh wasteland, awash with violent crime, which has risen 40% with her in charge. This is the woman picked to investigate Tiffany Henyard, and she's being paid $400 an hour to do it. Anyway, around 3 months later, and in August 2024, the investigation is getting somewhere. So Lightfoot holds a press conference, showcasing some findings. Turns out, Tiffany and friends had access to 6 Dolton credit cards, and they made use of them. $218,000 on Amazon purchases, $43,000 of that spent in one day. The village doesn't have an Amazon account.
We created this.
Almost $400,000 on 3 vehicles, around $8,000 on hair and makeup in a couple of months, $170,000 on business travel, trips to Atlanta, New York, Jackson, and Portland, with first-class seats, and tens of thousands on Four Seasons and Marriott hotel stays. More than $51,000 on food, thousands of dollars a month to an Atlanta-based PR firm, and then the $15K for her inauguration party. Something she'd said she'd pay for herself. Overall, at least $780,000 in undocumented and unapproved village expenses, as well as $1 million in police overtime. This is in a village of 20,000 people. Also, the village's legally required state audits and reports never filed. The legally required treasurer position never filled. The village's accounting software tracking receipts, payments, and checks, everyone's locked out. There had been a few finance directors, but they were intermittent and only worked part-time. As a result, the village finances, not great. Back in April 2022, the village had a surplus of $5.6 million in its general fund. This is the account used to fund day-to-day operations. When the village contracted people for work, they actually paid them. Fast forward to mid-2024, and that is now minus $3.6 million. a $9 million swing. They haven't been able to pay anyone since March 2023. 589 checks, worth around $6 million, approved, printed, and sent out to vendors, but bouncing right back. Okay, things are not looking great, but it's fine. This is a private investigation. Lightfoot has no official power, and no legal consequences can come of it. So that same month, time to get the beers in. It's the Taste of Thornton street party, and Henyard is flying in famous rappers and singers for it. This event costs over $85,000. $4,000 of that is on bouncy castles. She also has plans for a picnic. Trustees object to this, but to no avail. And on the 1st of September, the Friends of Tiffany Henyard picnic is held at her rink. Skating, food giveaways, more bouncy castles. Right, enough. And funding for all events is officially cut. Gospel Fest, House Fest, even Big Bingo. Gone. Tiffany and her boyfriend, who now has a job running the township's at-risk youth program for $100K a year, are now also facing eviction. See, they'd had a $200 rent increase, and in response, decided to just stop paying rent entirely.
I'm not leaving!
They were on a combined salary of almost $400K a year. They also changed the locks and garage code, so now their landlord can't even step foot in the building. Also, more bankruptcy fraud. This time, Henyard's chief policeman is indicted, having filed for bankruptcy 9 times. This was allegedly done to hide assets, bank accounts, and monthly income from creditors. He's shown the door. Despite all of this, for Tiffany, spirits remain high, and she's decided now's a great time to announce her bid for re-election. She closes out the year, threatening to arrest opponents.
I will be seeking arrests for individuals involved.
And getting booed out of board meetings. The year is now 2025. Dolton is almost $4 million in the hole, has around 50 lawsuits against it, and the village's super mayor is barely even turning up to meetings anymore. Regardless, this is a big year. Both of Henyard's positions are up for grabs, and she's gunning for a second term for both. But on the township side, bad news. She's just lost the Democratic primary nomination for supervisor, which means that now that's essentially out of reach. It's okay. She can still run for re-election as Dolton's mayor, and she's confident. In fact, she predicts a landslide.
When I come in with a landslide this evening, I'm gonna be so great. Y'all can all come to the after party.
She's now running against Jason House, a Dolton trustee and previous ally. And election day isn't far off, so she ramps up her campaign. This involves making diss tracks. Tuesday, January 28th, and a board meeting in Dolton starts like any other. The trustees gather, and residents sit down to watch. However, that Chicago activist from earlier, well, he's here too, and he's walking up to the microphone to make a statement. A massive brawl breaks out instantly. Henyard's boyfriend rushes in with swings. Another bloke not long after that. Tiffany herself not long after that. Screams, shoving, punches, pandemonium. A security guard hits the deck. Henyard loses a shoe.
I think that's Tiffany's shoe.
Her wig also gets some airtime. She hits her head on a table and hits the deck too. Multiple televisions in the room are smashed and people injured. The police are called and the meeting is over. Henyard, her boyfriend, and the township are sued for assault and battery and emotional distress. Her boyfriend is also fired. 25th of February, 2025. It's election day in Dolton, and votes begin to come in. And eventually, the results for the Democratic nomination are taking shape. And Tiffany Henyard loses. It's not close. After years of public service, Dolton's super mayor is let go, cast into the wind, gone. She says people didn't give her a chance.
People didn't give me a chance. I think that I was blindsided from the go. I came in 2021.